All right, well, welcome to our service today. So you may recall we've been doing suggestion box services the last couple of weeks, and this one was in the suggestion box and it tied in nicely with last week's service. So this was not out of the hat pick in that sense. It was a intentional pick. As you see, I've titled this service, Does God Hate the Handicapped? And obviously the answer is no, God does not hate the handicapped. But you'll see in this chapter why somebody might say that. At the end of it, it's don't bring before me the lame, the blind, the people with broken hands and stuff like that. So people can say, why does God not want this to be? And I think the takeaway from this service is, you want to put the word spiritual before a lot of these things. Don't, spiritually blind, spiritually lame, and these are the problems that we're trying to combat. That's the short answer. But I thought this was a reasonable chapter to kind of go through and take it apart and see, well, what is it that is being taught here? How do we resolve this? Because at first pass it does seem a bit crazy. So this is Leviticus chapter 22 that we're working with here. And just to start with, just to kind of put it in your head, I see this chapter broken up into two parts. The first is verses 1 through 9, and you see I have underlined there, speak to the priests is in the first verse. So this first 9 verses, Moses is speaking to the priests. And then verse 10 and beyond, it's to the high priest. So we have two different groups of people here. And when we look to what Swedenborg writes about this, he's saying that, well, the priests are spiritual people. And these are people, like in his terms, are people whose primary love is love to the neighbor. That's what they care about the most, is the neighbor. And the high priest is the person whose love is towards the Lord. That's their highest and motivating love. So two categories of people here. And I think what you're going to see here is that, we're told to, strive to perfection. Well, as you're striving to be a spiritual person, if you want to be a priest, as it were, well, these are the kind of things that you're going to have to be able to do and be competent at. And the high priest, well, if you want to say, I want to make it to the highest heaven, I want to have, love the Lord is my highest and greatest thing, well, then these are the things you're going to have to overcome in life. Blindness and all these other stuff. So that's big picture what we're looking at here. And if you just have one last piece of the puzzle in your mind, the priesthood is established after the golden calf. All right, Moses comes down from the mountain and he says, he breaks the tablets and he says, we got to get rid of this calf. And he says, whoever is for the Lord has got to come with me, and you're going to have to put to death the people of your brothers who did this. And who steps forward? It's the Levites. And because the Levites do this, they become the priesthood. So the priesthood already has this floor of our love is for doing what God says. So that's how that gets established. Anyway, without further ado, let's take a look at these first verses here, 1 through 4. Lord says to Moses, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, none shall defile himself for the dead among his people, except for his relatives who are nearest to him, his mother, his father, his son, his daughter, his brother, and also his virgin sister who is near to him, whom has no husband, for her he may defile himself. Otherwise he shall not defile himself, being a chief man among his people, to profane himself. So notice, all right, don't defile except for these few exceptions. Well, defiling is about contaminating yourself or bringing in something that's impure. So the idea is you don't bring in false ideas, don't bring in the love of evil actions, don't bring those things into your life. Except, well, what is this except? Why is it okay to defile yourself with family members? Well, what the teachings of the New Church reveal about this is that family is about things that are passed on to us through our heredity. So it's like you're not expected to overcome hereditary tendencies and evils that are passed on to you in order to be part of the priesthood. So it's like you've got to overcome the world. You've got to overcome the things that are around you. You've got to want to do the right things for the right reason. But, there is this exception here that there's things that are passed on to you either through genetics or maybe it's passed on to you from the teachings about the way you were raised. Maybe your parents raised you to be a jerk. There's actually a lower expectation that you're going to have to overcome that. Because you don't defile yourself except for these things. I think about that, and I have, a lot of my family comes from the southeast U.S. where there's racism was just the norm for so many years. And I think, oh, well, you know what? I know a lot of them, they were raised that way. That was just part of their life. And they were racist to the day they died. And I think, well, that's interesting. Is that what this is saying here? That those things don't have to be overcome? Wow, I don't know. But that's the implication here, is that the stuff that's passed on to us, I'm not saying that you shouldn't overcome it, but it seems like there's some slack being given to stuff that was ingrained in your childhood and to things that were passed on to you from your family. The virgin sister is interesting because, a virgin, she's pure, right? But she's spiritually, she's incomplete, right? She's got no husband. So a virgin sister is about this love for doing the right thing, but doesn't have the wisdom to guide it. There's no husband. So you're forgiven for blindly trying to do the right thing. You're not actually being good because you don't have the wisdom to go with it, but you know what? You've got this virgin sister. You have this desire to be good. So, okay, you can defile yourself for that because at least you're trying, I guess. So there you go. There's first 4 verses. Then we go on to verse 5. They shall not make any bald place on their heads, nor shall they shave the edges of their beards, nor make any cuttings in their flesh. They shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, for they offer the offerings of the Lord made by fire and the bread of their God. Therefore they shall be holy. They shall not take a wife who is a harlot or a defiled woman, nor shall they take a woman divorced from her husband, for the priest is holy to God, to his God. Therefore you shall consecrate him, for he offers the bread of your God. He shall be holy to you. For I, the Lord, who sanctify you, am holy. The daughter of any priest, if she profanes herself by playing the harlot, she profanes her father, she shall be burned with fire. Well, that doesn't sound very nice. But same kind of thing, you got to look at these things spiritually and say, what is the spiritual representation of this? Don't make bald places on your head and shaving the edge of your beard. That sounds kind of strange, but the idea here is you're a spiritual person from the highest part of yourself all the way to the outer edges. So even your hair is holy to the extent that it's a representation of the most external things of your life. You want to do the right thing for the right reason, and that has to manifest all the way through to every edge of your body. Don't cut it short. Let it all go to the very edges. You've got to have that integrity of mind and body. That's what we're going for here. Notice that these things, are about the offerings made by fire and the bread of their God. So the fire should be made from good love. We just have the Nadab and Abihu one. You got to have good love, burning bush, good love. And the bread is about also goodness in our hearts. So all these things, it's you got to bring it all the way through to the end. And then this whole business about the defiled woman. Don't add a woman who is representing goodness and the desire to be good. These divorced women and the harlots, and they're all contaminated with something. It's about they've mixed some sort of evil in their life, some sort of disorder even. And so don't bring disorder into your life is really what it's going down here for. It's not about literally, in our life we shouldn't marry a defiled, divorced woman. That's not what we're going for. But what is a harlot in spiritual terms? It's someone who mixes false ideas with good actions. So she's contaminated everything. It's made a mess. So they're not supposed to do that. If we move on to the high priest, This is where we get to have the thing about handicap stuff and what is it called? Defects. Defects. That's the word he uses. Defects. We get this. He who is the high priest among his brethren, on whose head the anointing oil was poured, and who is consecrated to wear the garments, shall not let his hair go loose, nor tear his clothes. All right, so your hair, again, that most every external part of your body, it's got to be in order. Hair's got to be in order. Your clothes, like it was a thing to tear your clothes if you had messed up. If you sinned, tear your clothes as a deal. Well, no, you're not going to do that. Everything's got to